Hey guys, welcome to episode 9 of the Pre-Valorant podcast. So today we're going to be talking about why Valorant is going to be important for the esports community as a whole. So one thing that the esports community has really been struggling with, I guess is a better word, yeah. The one thing they've been struggling with a lot is monetization, right? Finding people who are willing to put money into the tournaments, putting money into the players, putting money into the teams has been difficult for esports for multiple reasons. For games that are first-person shooters, right, that are primarily surrounding gunplay, it's difficult to sponsor those games because they're very dangerous to brand imaging sometimes. For example, like let's take CSGO, right? CSGO and Call of Duty even as well, both struggle with finding sponsors because the game has very hyper realistic graphics, right? Valorant doesn't, which is very, very smart. So the reason the hyper realistic graphics are a concern is you're killing people and they look very real, and brands don't want to be associated with that. Valorant, it looks fake enough where it's not that big of a deal. You're shooting cartoons that are also highlighted, right? Like it just has such a cartoony vibe that it's not nearly as harmful as something like Call of Duty or CSGO. Second, I think the most important thing that I think people failed to realize that Valorant did to the game design is they removed the bomb and they called it a spike. This is huge. CSGO has a really hard time with having a bomb, also with having counter terrorists and terrorists as well. But the bomb is also an issue. Valorant doesn't have a bomb. They called it a spike, and that's huge. That is so crucial to having your platform being more brand friendly. Right now, it doesn't seem as hostile anymore. It's a softer environment still. It's don't get me wrong. It's still a quote unquote violent game, but it's softer than CSGO and it's softer than Call of Duty to a point where a brand isn't afraid. It won't be as afraid to put their name on the game, on the team, on the player. So with that, since brands are going to be more likely to take part in that sort of stuff, more money can be generated for teams, for players, and for the tournaments and the leagues that'll be surrounding Valorant, which will be huge. Monetization that actually has a positive ROI needs to happen, because right now esports is in a bubble and it's in a dangerous bubble. Like for example, Call of Duty and Overwatch are detrimental to esports just because they cost so much money to actually be a part of, with very little actual ROI for the people putting money into it. So Valorant will hopefully start the trend of teams and orgs and leagues being monetized well. Second, I think Valorant will also be big because of what it's doing in the professional scene. It's now a game that allows first-person players from other games that are capable of playing at the professional level, but just never did, whether it be because there wasn't any spots available, there just wasn't enough teams available to keep competing, right? Now that there's more, now they can also compete in that and still make money off the skills they already have. Like Wardell is a great example. He was a CSGO player. He wasn't able to compete in CSGO, and a Valorant team picked him up, and now he's doing phenomenal in Valorant. 10Z went from CSGO to Valorant as well, and if I'm not mistaken, he is the greatest Valorant player to date right now. 100 Thieves had a bunch of pro PUBG players that stopped playing PUBG because it died, and they brought him onto their Valorant team, right? These are things that are going to be happening that we get to see and witness and basically like revive these players, which is super awesome. So that's going to be really good for the professional scene. And then for the player base is also going to be really good because it's a game that has an incredibly high skill ceiling, much like CSGO. Just because gunplay and aim is always going to be difficult. And now you're throwing abilities in there that actually affect how the gunfights are going to play out, when they're going to play out, right? There's a lot more thinking and a lot more strategy now put behind the game to help with that skill ceiling, but those abilities also help with the skill floor by lowering it, because now I can accommodate for, let's say, my bad aim with smokes, with flashes, with stuns, with all that sort of stuff to allow me to have an advantage if I'm really bad at aim, but I understand enough game sense to use my abilities accordingly. So it's also going to allow a very diverse player base to then get involved with the game. And when they get involved in the game, they want to get involved with the professional scene and track with the professional scene, which is all around just phenomenal, right? That's one of the problems with like Rainbow Six Siege is an incredibly difficult game. The skill floor on Rainbow Six Siege is very, very, very high. And that discourages new players from coming in and playing, right? Just because since the game is so developed, it's very difficult to accommodate for poor skill or even learning how to acquire that skill when everybody's just so much better than you. And even if they're at the bottom end of the spectrum, the skill floor is high enough where that will affect new players and people who are just really bad at the game. So that's something that Valorant will also thrive in as well. It's just a really great game overall. Now, whether or not it's like a 10 out of 10 game, I'm not trying to review the game, right? That's something I want to make clear right now. I'm not trying to review the quality of the game, design, because I have some issues with the game design as well, right? But as a game in the esports scene, it has a lot of potential for doing good, which is definitely exciting. Because gaming is in an awkward spot because a lot of money is being put into it and there's not a lot of ROI, right? People aren't getting their money back. They're not making money off of the initial investment that they put into it. It's scary because of how new it is and how undeveloped the whole thing is. And it's very, very high risk because of that. And Valorant will help minimize that risk a little bit more with what it's offering, which is good. And it's good to see that Riot's the one doing it as well, because Riot's done fairly well with League of Legends and monetizing that and making those orgs and such. Yes, I still think that players are being overpaid, that orgs are asking too much money, like all that sort of stuff for League of Legends. But I think Valorant will really help with the trend to make it all more quote unquote affordable, I'll call it, and more profitable for people. So then it becomes an actual industry rather than a black hole for money to get swallowed. And nobody understands why it's not pumping money out yet, and then it will eventually collapse because of that. And I don't want that to happen, obviously. I love gaming too much. So Valorant will really help the gaming industry stray away from that impending doom. Which is good. That's obviously good. So the next thing we're gonna have to watch is the health of Twitch, but we'll talk about that in a later episode on how Twitch will impact esports. So stay tuned for that, guys. And as always, thank you for your support. If you have any ideas that you want me to talk about, you want me to give my 2 cents on, feel free to DM me on any social media platform or leave a comment below. Just find a way to get a hold of me, and I'd be more than happy to talk about what you want to hear.